That was the track "Fight for Peace" by A Plea for Purging. I've always loved this band. Go and give this whole album a listen because there's some really awesome stuff on there. I just always liked the intro to this song, and I always wanted to replicate the kind of piano-y sounding parts, which actually are guitar, but they've just kind of got like a little bit of filter and effects and stuff over the top of them. So I did my best to try and replicate that clean sound. And then, of course, there's the heavy tone. Now, you can see, looking at this preset, there's a lot going on here. You can see a lot of things are disabled, and we're using up two of well, pretty much all of the DSP cores, actually, three of them on the Quad Cortex. And this is why I love the Quad Cortex, because you can push it in this manner. And I'll go through how I've kind of like set it all up, and then we'll go from there. So we've got a pretty standard sort of setup here. I've got a pitch shifting transpose on here, which is just used for the octave switching for the heavy tone. But we're looking at the clean tone here right now, which doesn't use the transpose. I've got a utility gate just for quietening things up. Now, usually I would use the input gate control, but because we are actually using 2 amps here, which you'll see in the heavy tone, I kind of did that just to clean things up. And I keep it on for the clean guitar as well. So this row here really is the clean sound. That's the Roland Jazz chorus down there, of course, and a few other little effects. But I'm using the first row to add the noise gate. I've got a compressor on there as well, an opto compressor that just kind of makes the clean sound a little bit more, I guess, pronounced as well. Because when you're dealing with quiet parts or loud parts, you want it to all be consistent and compressed. That's just pretty standard for a lot of clean tones if you want them to sound good. So really that's all that's happening. I'm splitting off here, which doesn't really apply for the clean tone, but you can see I'm going into row 3, and this is row 3. So what I'm actually doing is between the scenes, I'm just switching various amps and whatnot off. But the clean tone is quite simple. So the jazz chorus, volume quite high. I've got the bright turned off. A few other little settings, bass at 6, mid 7, treble 6. That kind of gets us a nice clean sound. I've got the Roland Jazz chorus. I did a high pass at 90 and a low pass at 11.5K just to kind of clean the eye up on the cabinet. I've got a parametric 8 EQ here, and what I'm actually doing is a high pass at 80. I'm doing a scoop at 6.4 at the 225. At the 471, I'm scooping 5.5. And then at the 4 mark, I'm scooping 7.6 at the 3000 mark. And then finally, I've got a higher shelf here at 7500, but I'm just pushing it at 1.5. So these settings were kind of trial and error. There was no particular reason I landed on these. This is just kind of what got a sound that I thought sounded pretty good. Now, what's crucial to the sound, because I wanted like a synth piano-y type sound, using a chorus, so the Chief CE2W stereo on CE1 mode, mix 52, then 32 for rate, 40 for depth, 0 in the width. Then I have a digital delay on there as well, just moderate settings on there, quarter notes, mix at 38, and then other standard stuff. And then finally, I've got a plate reverb and only 34%, fairly high decay, moderate pre-delay, and then a few other little changes here that you can see. And that gets us the clean tone. I'm pretty happy with it. I did try not to tinker too much. At the extent of my tinkering was the EQ. So now that's the clean tone. Let's go to the heavy tone, because what I actually did here is, it's rare I combine amps, but in this instance, I did some research to try and find information on what they recorded this album using, and apparently they combined a couple of different amps. So I've got PV505 lead on here on the first one with a 412 traditional V30 cabinets. And then on second row here, I've got an EVH5150 Red 6L6 as well. So what I did was I pulled the output down on those two to moderate sort of levels, just to kind of get them to blend as well. And then on the mixer, the splitter, I did 20 left, 20 right pan. I didn't want that kind of empty space in the middle. I didn't want to do a full hard, 50 left, 50 right. So I experimented around, and 20 seemed to kind of get the nice blend that I was looking for between those two amps on there. So that's why you see 2 amps on here for the heavy sound. I've got a tube screamer, added a little bit of overdrive. It felt like it needed it, pushed the tone up. The level almost pushed the 10, but not quite. I didn't want to we're using 2 amps, so I didn't want to work it too hard. And then we've got 100 and 8,500 on the high and low pass on the 505 cab. And then on the EVH 5150 cab, I'm doing a high pass at 100, low pass at 8,000. These are EQ'd differently as well. You can see that the gains and volumes are a little bit different. The EVH 5150 has kind of been pulled back a little bit. And, you know, various things like presence and whatnot differ between them because I wanted to combine the qualities of the 2 amps to complement each other. And that's just kind of where I landed on that. Doing EQ as well on these two, and they are slightly different EQ. So high pass at 80 on both. And then at 420, I'm doing a scoop of 3.5 on the EVH. On the 400, I'm doing a scoop of 3 on the 505. And then similarly on the 2500 band for the 505, pushing it by 2. On the bottom one here, pushing 2800 by 2.2. And then lastly, I'm doing a low pass at 10K on the 505. And then I'm doing a low pass of 9,500. So I differed these between the 2 amps because I didn't want them to sound the same. I wanted to kind of EQ them differently and have the settings different. And that kind of got us the heavy sound. And I'm actually pretty happy with it. I don't usually combine amps in this manner, but in this case, it really, really worked. I felt like it made a difference. You can still get a good sound if you just used one of these, either or all of these amps. But yeah, definitely if you're using the Quad Cortex, keep the split there. If you're using a different modeler, you can obviously just use 1 amp if you can't do this kind of degree of splitting. But other modelers, I know like the Helix and whatnot, do allow that kind of splitting. So hopefully that helps you. And thank you for watching if you made it this far.